It was a foggy morning in 1610 when a small, seemingly insignificant ship creaked its way out of the harbor of Plymouth, England. Few noticed it, and even fewer remembered its name. But that unassuming vessel carried more than wood and sails. It carried the hopes, fears, and ambitions of a new world, and a secret that would remain hidden for centuries. What happened on that voyage would change the map of the world in ways no one at the time could have imagined. In the early 17th century, England was a nation teetering on the edge of transformation. Queen Elizabeth I had passed, leaving her cousin, James I, on the throne. The country was grappling with the aftermath of religious upheavals, economic instability, and the rise of mercantile ambitions. England had watched Spain and Portugal establish vast overseas empires, and now it hungered for a place on that map. Among those drawn to the promise of exploration was Captain William Bradford, a seasoned seafarer whose life had been intertwined with the ocean since boyhood. Bradford had heard tales of the New World, a place of endless forests, abundant rivers and fertile lands, inhabited by peoples whose ways of life were both intriguing and unknown. But more than wealth or fame, Bradford sought knowledge. He wanted to discover the lands that lay beyond the horizon and document the stories of those who lived there. The ship Bradford commanded was called the Providence. Unlike the massive galleons of Spain or Portugal, it was small, nimble, and designed to navigate treacherous coastlines and shallow rivers. Its crew was a mix of experienced sailors, eager adventurers, and scholars commissioned by a wealthy consortium of investors in London. They brought with them tools for navigation, rudimentary scientific instruments, and curious devices to measure wind, tide, and even the motion of the stars. The voyage began under uncertain skies. The Atlantic in those days was a wild, unforgiving place, and the Providence was no match for the storms that frequently lashed the ocean. Days stretched into weeks, and the men battled seasickness, dwindling surprise, and rising fears of mutiny. Yet Bradford's meticulous journals reveal a man both patient and visionary. He meticulously recorded not only the coordinates and sightings, but also the subtle rhythms of nature. The flight of seabirds, the migratory patterns of whales, and the whispers of currents that seemed to guide the ship forward.
After nearly 3 months at sea, the crew sighted land, a jagged coastline unlike anything they had expected. It was not the mythical lands of gold and jewels that merchants in London had promised, but a raw, wild territory, stretching as far as the eye could see. Bradford named the place Nova Terra, New Land, but he soon realized that this was not empty territory. The forests were alive with deer, wildfowl, and the signs of human habitation. Here, the indigenous people lived in villages and had already developed sophisticated systems of agriculture, governance, and trade. Bradford was careful. Unlike other explorers who had treated native peoples as obstacles or curiosities, he sought understanding. He approached them with gifts, cloth, beads, and tools, hoping to open dialogue. His journals provide vivid accounts of his interactions. He was fascinated by the intricate craftsmanship of their homes, the elaborate ceremonies that marked seasonal changes, and the oral histories that traced back generations. One day, while exploring a river estuary, Bradford stumbled upon a discovery that would astonish him. Buried beneath layers of sediment and sand were massive carved stones, stone markers that resembled both monuments and maps. On closer inspection, he realized that these stones detailed extensive trade routes and astronomical knowledge far beyond what Europeans had assumed existed in the New World. The indigenous peoples had developed a form of celestial navigation that used the stars, moon phases, and even migratory animal patterns to guide long-distance travel. Bradford documented the find meticulously, sensing that this was a revelation that could rewrite history. Yet Bradford and his crew were not the only ones exploring the New World. Spain, France, and the Netherlands had established colonies along the coasts, often clashing with native populations. Bradford's expedition faced a delicate balancing act. He had to avoid conflicts, maintain his crew's morale, and safeguard the secrets he had uncovered. It was during these tense months that Bradford realized the true value of his discovery. The stone maps contained information not just about navigation, but also about rich deposits of minerals, medicinal plants, and fertile lands, knowledge that could shift the balance of power among European empires. As winter approached, the crew faced their greatest challenge. Storms battered the coastline, food supplies dwindled, and sickness spread. Bradford himself fell gravely ill, and for weeks the survival of the expedition seemed uncertain. Yet amid adversity, remarkable acts of courage emerged. The crew banded together, learning from the indigenous peoples how to preserve food, construct shelters, and navigate the icy waters. Bradford's journals speak of a remarkable moment when the chief of a local tribe provided the expedition with a cache of smoked fish and dried berries, saving the crew from certain starvation. This act of generosity would forge an alliance that lasted for decades, allowing the exchange of knowledge, goods, and culture. In spring, the Providence set sail for England, carrying with it not only the crew, but also a wealth of knowledge that would astound the European world. Bradford's detailed journals included drawings of the stone maps, descriptions of native customs, and observations of flora and fauna never before documented in Europe. But upon their return, Bradford faced skepticism. The English court was preoccupied with political intrigues and colonial ambitions. Few could grasp the significance of his findings. Some dismissed the celestial navigation stones as fanciful or misinterpreted artifacts. Others envied the wealth of knowledge and sought to suppress it, fearing it would disrupt trade monopolies. Despite these challenges, Bradford remained committed to documenting his discoveries. Over the next decade, he published treatises on navigation, indigenous cultures, and the geography of the New World. These works circulated widely among scholars and explorers, influencing expeditions that followed. Some historians argue that Bradford's observations were critical to the success of later colonies in New England, providing practical knowledge of local ecosystems, agricultural methods, and diplomacy with native peoples. Yet perhaps the most astonishing aspect of Bradford's voyage was what remained hidden from the world: the stone maps. In the years following his death, the originals were lost, likely removed or destroyed during colonial expansion. Modern archaeologists occasionally stumble upon fragments of similar artifacts, sparking debates about the sophistication of indigenous knowledge systems and challenging the Eurocentric narratives of exploration. Today, historians view Bradford's journey as a testament to curiosity, courage, and the power of observation. His voyage reminds us that history is not just a record of kings, battles, and empires. It is the story of people who dared to see the world differently, who engaged with it respectfully, and who preserved knowledge for future generations. Imagine for a moment if Bradford's stone maps had survived intact. Could modern navigation have advanced decades sooner? Could European colonization have followed different patterns, perhaps more harmonious and sustainable? The questions remain unanswered, tantalizingly out of reach, buried somewhere between history and myth. Bradford's story also offers a lesson for today: the importance of curiosity paired with respect. In an age when technological knowledge is abundant and the temptation to exploit rather than understand is ever present,
Bradford's careful documentation, his willingness to learn from others, and his dedication to preserving knowledge remind us of a path forward, one that values insight over conquest, collaboration over domination. As historians continue to pore over old journals, maps, and artifacts, Bradford's legacy quietly endures. The foggy morning in 1610, when the Providence left Plymouth Harbor, might have seemed ordinary, even forgettable. Yet that voyage opened doors to knowledge that reshaped the understanding of an entire continent. And though the ship, the crew, and even the stone maps themselves have vanished from history's stage, the impact of their discoveries lingers, silent, profound, and enduring. In telling Bradford's story, we are reminded that history is not always written by those in power. Sometimes it is the meticulous notes of a single observer, the courage of a small crew, or the generosity of an overlooked community that quietly changes the course of human understanding. The Voyage of the Providence is a tale of curiosity, resilience, and the enduring mystery of what lies just beyond the horizon. A reminder that even in the forgotten corners of history, extraordinary discoveries await those willing to look closely, listen carefully, and venture boldly.